little bit of Lauryn Hill on the Elias Macko Show. You know, I was joking over the break with Jay that Prime Minister Trudeau is the Lauryn Hill of politicians because he is never on time for a press conference. He's supposed to be addressing Canadians at 11:30, of course. Now 11:38 on the dot. He's still not shown up. But no matter, when the Prime Minister talks, you'll hear a snippet of him, if we can get him, during the Elias Macko Show. For now, though, we turn our attention south of the border on politics because it's a big day in the U.S. as we're expecting more and more details about President-elect Joe Biden's cabinet. With more on this, let's go to Brian Karim, senior White House reporter at Playboy and political analyst for CNN. Hi, Brian.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. So, listen, let's get down to business here.
Hey, first of all, getting down to business, I want to let you know your prime minister has nothing on our president. He's routinely 30 to 45 minutes late for everything he does.
But it's sort of like at least with Trump, it's always like that in the sense like you just don't know what day he'll show up in general. Whereas the prime minister, it's like the prime minister will release a schedule. Like, here's my schedule for today, and it's 11:30 this, and then he's always late on that schedule. But I get what you're saying. Yeah. Okay, Brian, let's get to the big news south of the border, or where you are, and talk about the fact that the GSA, the General Services Administration, has finally flipped the switch on money, and the transition can really begin. What can you tell us?
Well, we can tell you that they put a fork in Trump. He's done. I mean, he can rant and rave all he wants. About a half hour ago, Pennsylvania announced they certified the election. Michigan certified the election there. Donald Trump has very few avenues left. All of them will be outside of the White House, and he'll be gone January 20th. Whether they drag him out of there kicking or screaming is really the only issue left. And even money has it that he'll disappear to Mar-a-Lago over Christmas and just never come back to the White House. So we're finally turning the page on a very dark chapter in United States politics.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of turning that page, all eyes now on the president-elect and who he's going to name in his cabinet. What can you tell us about some of those names, and what can you tell us about the message being sent with those picks?
Well, I think so far the names that he's chosen, particularly and how he's chosen them, shows that he's trying to repair the reputation of the United States in the international community. And in fact, the people that his foreign policy experts that he's chosen to appoint or nominate for office for an office are those who have a lot of experience in that particular area of government. And I think we're going to see, hopefully, the United States repairing its standing in the international community within the first 6 months of the new administration.
So with that in mind, repairing the reputation of the U.S., let's talk about Secretary of State. What can you tell us?
I think Secretary of State choice is very good. I think that he'll and the only question I have so far really isn't even a Secretary of State. It's the Department of Homeland Security. There are many people who question why we even have a Department of Homeland Security, but his appointment to the Department of Homeland Security, being an immigrant, shows a great deal about what President-elect Joe Biden thinks about how Donald Trump and his administration has handled immigration. And I think that goes for the Secretary of State as well. I think his choices all show that he's a man who's going to try and return government to some form of, norms instead of the dysfunctional palooza that we've suffered through for the last 4 years.
And that's Antony J. Blinken, right, for Secretary of State?
I've known Blinken for a while. I mean, he follows me on Twitter.
Great. That's a DM. You can go with the DM with the Secretary of State.
Yeah, he's a decent fellow, and I think he's a very professional guy. I think he's going to do what hasn't been done in the U.S. I'm looking forward to see how the DOJ shakes out, because that's a real concern here. I think with so far, as I said, with the appointments that Biden has made, I think it's even people on the other side of the aisle, the Democrats and Republicans, both sides are saying, wow, these are professional guys. This is a good choice.
We're with Brian.
There hasn't been any. Pardon?
No, go ahead. Finish your thought, Brian.
No, there hasn't been any hue and outcry like there was when Trump came in and said, I'm going to nominate used car salesmen. So, it's been the reaction from both the Republicans and the Democrats has been encouraging. So perhaps the idea of unity is not so far-fetched after all.
We're with Brian Karim, senior White House reporter at Playboy, political analyst for CNN. So, Brian, on that subject, because it seemed like Donald Trump specifically would pick people for these top posts that were, the antitheses of what you'd expect to be at the top of these levels of government, right? So, for education secretary, get someone who's really not interested in public education, so on and so forth. Is a lot of the picks we're seeing from Joe Biden about trust and respect of the institutions and rebuilding them from within?
Yeah, and you have to remember that what Donald Trump was doing was kind of from the Steve Bannon workbook of tear it all down. So get people who don't believe in it to rip it to shreds. And that's what he did with DeVos. That's what he did with pretty much all of his appointments and all his nominees. Mm-hmm. And you see Joe Biden trying to restore some trust in the process and the government, tearing it all down. Look, upsetting the apple cart, all of that stuff can be good, but what are you doing? What are you replacing it with, and who are you putting in there? And Biden has shown that, you can govern and still, in the past, has shown you can govern and still question what goes on and make positive contributions to fixing things without ripping it to shreds. Donald Trump was just the toddler in everybody knows who Donald Trump is. He's the toddler in preschool who runs around eating the paste and ripping things apart.
Brian, I gotta ask you one last question about those Republicans.
Sure.
You referenced it in one of your previous answers, but I want to have a deeper dive here. The Republicans, from what you're hearing, really, how much are they going to want to work with Joe Biden? I think it's easier said than done, particularly with the political climate and how the divide is between the left and the right. How will that happen?
Well, that is the ultimate question. That is the only. That's the first question I have for the incoming president. Is he speaks of unity? How is he going to make it happen? Now, Biden has a reputation on both sides of the aisle of being a man you can work with and a man that you can trust. I think that gives him a leg up over Trump, obviously, and I think that he doesn't scare the right nearly as much as Barack Obama did, and so I think there's a chance. And when I say scare the right, I mean, look, they're racist.
Yeah.
He doesn't scare them because he's white. That's the whole thing.
He looks like them. He's an old white guy. He looks like them more. Yeah.
Yeah. We can trust him. He's an old white guy, just like us. So that there's. I think he's got a chance of working with people, and you have to remember, at the end of the day, Joe Biden is part of two historical administrations. He's vice president to the first African-American president, and he's president to the first African-American minority woman vice president. The guy has a lot of gravitas, and he's got very small shoes to fill. But I think he'll do fine.
Small gloves to fill as well. Hey, Brian, thanks for talking to us this morning. I appreciate it.
Sure, anytime.
Brian Karim, senior White House reporter at Playboy, political analyst for CNN. Boy, that was fun.